we put the daily schedule up here, and depending on your grade, that would show the core block where your classroom teacher would be streaming live. It would give you the benefits to join that if you haven't already started doing that. So we kind of suggest that you create a schedule similar to your grade level Bell schedule when you're at home. That way you can build routine and make sure that you're setting that time aside to join live classroom sessions with your teachers, okay? So our teachers are using either Canvas conferencing or Microsoft Teams. You can show it. Depending on your teacher, most are using Microsoft Teams, but we do have some teachers that are using Canvas conferencing, and it's really great because regardless of which avenue the teachers are using, it's important that you know that those platforms are owned by Union County Public Schools. So we want to make sure that we are being smart and respectful, and we are taking action just as we would if we were live in a classroom, because we want to make sure that everyone there is able to focus and take part in the classroom instruction. We will talk about getting set up in Teams. I'm assuming since you guys are joining a live session on Teams that you've become familiar with it. You have all been placed in a class team with your classroom teacher already. And one thing to remember is the first time that you join Microsoft Teams, you're going to want to go to the website and search Microsoft Teams. The first time you log in, you're going to use your email without the word student. I know that gets confusing, and I would be confused if I were you guys sometimes, because your email sometimes has the word student and sometimes it wants you to enter your email without the word student. So if you're having trouble anytime logging in, try to enter your email both ways to see if that will fix the issue. So there are many benefits to joining live streaming. You may have been getting used to the pre-recorded videos that the teachers have been doing, and I know that many of your teachers have worked very hard on that. But the benefit with live streaming is that you have access right then with your teacher, just as you would in the classroom. I've heard many parents and students and teachers all say that once the instruction is given and the student starts working on the assignment, that's when all the questions start to come in. If you're participating in that live streaming, you're able to progress through the class instruction, you're able to start that assignment, and you're able to have access to your teacher right then to ask questions, again, just as you would if you were in class. Another benefit is that you're going to have clarity on class assignments, because you may be confused as to how the pre-recorded video translates to that assignment. When you are joining live streaming, your teacher's providing all that explanation to the class in front of them, and so you're going to get that same clarity just as you would if you were in person. And then finally, and honestly, one of my favorite parts of joining live streaming is that, I don't know about you guys, but I've been feeling pretty isolated since all this started in March. And this is a huge benefit, because you will be able to interact with your peers, those that are in school and those that are continuing their learning from home. And so that's a huge benefit, being able to socialize, because many of us miss that, and it's important for your development to interact with your peers as much as you can, especially in times like these.
And it's kind of fun. This is Miss Crosley, by the way, and I teach social studies, and we've done. When we've been live streaming, we've done Kahoots, we've done Nearpods, and there's been some smack talk, back and forth with that. So, I mean, there is a lot of interaction there, and a lot of teachers are starting like small groups. So you would actually be able to collaborate with your peers with this.
So there's some etiquette, and basically etiquette's a fancy word for manners, okay? And I know that at Piedmont we are really big on manners, because you guys have some of the best manners that I've ever had the pleasure of working with in a school. So we have to think about what kind of manners and etiquette do we need to keep in mind when we're joining live streaming. So it's really good. Many of your teachers, in fact, most of your teachers will probably ask that you turn your camera off. The reason for that is your teachers are not allowed to record that session with your face in the recording. And that's just to protect you guys and to be respectful of not only you, but also your personal space at home. And so many of your teachers, if they are choosing to record that session, will ask you to turn off your video, but it's really personal, and will help you feel a little more present in that session if you add a picture of yourself with your profile. And it's, remember, it needs to be school appropriate, of course, but that kind of adds and allows your teachers, especially students, the ones that are staying home all week, helps your teachers kind of see your face and feel a little more connected. Also, it's important to have no distractions, just like in the classroom. We want, your background sounds, your cell phones. If you have your cell phone in your room when you're participating in live streaming, needs to be turned on silent or even off to keep yourself from getting distracted. Have headphones. That very much helps with the background noise. If you have to unmute your mic and talk to your teacher, having headphones is really, really good for that. Make sure you're focusing on the speaker. One thing that we're learning even as adults, as many of our adult meetings are happening online, is that it's very difficult to read body language and know when it's our turn to speak. There's a lot of interruptions, not purposefully, but it's just difficult to adjust to that new way of interacting. And so it's important to focus on the speaker to realize, when's an appropriate time to speak up or ask a question. And then finally, just like if you're in person, you need to know your class procedures and norms to ask questions of your teacher. Your teacher may ask for you to raise your hand to suggest that you have a question. They may ask you to, like we just asked you this morning, to enter your questions into the chat box. So it's important that you have clarity around that, because each class is different and each teacher's instruction is going to look differently in live streaming. And so they may ask you to send your questions differently. So be aware of that.
And can I add one too, Dr.
Yeah,
Kelly?
absolutely.
I will say, make sure you go to the bathroom before you join the live stream. Do not take the computer with you. Also, you don't want to mute the teacher and then go to the bathroom, because this happened the other day. I called on a student and I called the name and I'm like, where is this kid? And then he emailed me. He's like, oh, I went to the bathroom. I'm like, dude, like, really? Like, I was checking in on you at that time, so now I don't know what part you missed. So go to the bathroom before the live stream.
That is great advice. All right, so Ms. Crosley's going to talk a little bit about, a bit about Canvas. Some of you are more comfortable with Canvas than others, and that is okay. Some of us adults are more comfortable with Canvas than others. So it's just important that we communicate, and we especially communicate our frustrations and our difficulties so that we can put people in place to help guide and support you. So one thing that we've done at Piedmont to help navigate that confusion from teacher to teacher is that we've got one set way to organize all teacher Canvas pages at Piedmont. They're all organized by what's called modules, and those modules have dates on them to help you easily navigate to whatever it is, whatever lesson it is that you are trying to access, especially if you're trying to make up an assignment. Knowing the date of that assignment and understanding how quickly to go back to that date in the module is easier to navigate, easier to find that assignment if you needed to go back in time and do that. Another important thing to realize, many teachers use announcements through Canvas that, some people may feel like if they're generic announcements, then they don't pertain specifically to them, but teachers put a lot of important information in these announcements, and it really saves you time and it saves them time. If you take time, it's a lot of words for time, but if you take that moment to read their announcement and understand the details that they're wanting to share, because they're sending that announcement for an important reason. Also, there's a calendar feature in Canvas that can help you, again, organize your time and keep track of assignment due dates, meetings, and different activities that the teacher sets up. Mrs. Crosley, you want to talk about grades and submission of work?
Right. I'm going to do that on the next few slides. All right. So here we go. There's also directions for your parents to become parent observers. I am also a parent and I observe both of my students. It's really good to kind of check to see if they're turning in their assignments, because sometimes, you just need a reminder, and that's what parents can help you do, is remind you to turn this work. So if your parents are interested in that, there's a link here that will walk them through that. but basically the parent observer can actually see your teacher's Canvas page. When the teacher sends out announcements, the parent gets those announcements. When something is graded, your parent can see what the grade is. And a lot of times this is key, guys. You might not know this, but your teacher sometimes, depending on the teacher, they allow you to redo an assignment. So if you like bombed weekly math, guess what? You could probably redo that weekly math and get a better grade later. So this comes in handy because your parent could look at it and be like, ooh, you need to email your math teacher and ask if you can redo that weekly math for that week. Also, the parent observer can navigate Canvas the same way, and I highly recommend that parents download the Canvas app. There's one for parents, and as students, you guys should download it too, because it actually notifies you when your teacher, has an assignment for you, when due dates are. This is kind of key. And you can download that at the Apple Store, or if you have a Droid, you just go to the Google. Those are free to download. Working with Google Drive. You probably have several teachers that may have an assignment in Google Drive, but I want you to think of Canvas as like your teacher. Google Drive is like your notebook. And when you're done with an assignment, do you keep it in your notebook? No, you don't. You got to give it back to the teacher. So that's why it's got to go back to Canvas. So to start with that, you need to organize your Google Drive. So you're going to create a folder for each class if you have not already done so. And I highly recommend that you do this. The folder should be shared with that teacher, and this is going to help with your organization. So if you are one of those students who, when it comes time to turn something in and you're looking for it in your Google Drive and you can't find it, I am speaking to you. You are the one that needs to make sure you have a folder and that those items for that class are in that folder and shared with that teacher. And then I did create a little video tutorial that walks you through how you can delete your old folders so you don't get confused with stuff back, in elementary school, how you can create a folder and also share the folder with that teacher in Google Drive.
That's good if they want to see it.
Hey guys, do you want to see the video or do you want to watch it on your own? You can respond in the chat if you're muted, or you can just say, yes, I'd like to see it.
You're good? Okay. All right, so when you go to Canvas for your assignment, the teacher might share a document with you. And the first thing it's going to tell you is to make a copy, because guess what? You're not going to be able to edit on their copy. So please don't send a request to edit your teacher's copy of the assignment. So once you've gone to File and make a copy, you're able to edit. And then you need to make sure you go ahead and move that to the folder for that class. When you're done, this is key, you need to make sure that you submit it into the Canvas assignment. Just having it in Google Drive and just shared with your teacher is not turning it in. Again, that's like having it complete in your notebook. You need to hand it back to your teacher, and that's what you do in Canvas. Questions about Google Drive?
We have a couple responses on the chat, and they would like to see the video.
Oh, okay.
So I think we can play it right here. All right, guys, we're going to show the video.
Great. So.
Thank you for coming.
All right, so I want to remind you that Google Drive's like your notebook. So even though that thing is shared with Mr. Allen, you still have to turn it into Canvas because he's not going to go searching through his Google Drive for it. But it's key to make sure that it is shared with him so that when he does open it, he's not like, because if you're not shared with him, he can't see it to look at it. So that's what's key there. So do you guys have any specific questions about Google Drive before we move into turning stuff into Canvas?
If they have old documents, they should just get rid of them from last year.
I would encourage that because they don't need that kind of clutter.
I always do an archive folder too, so they could just create a folder that says archive 1920, 2019, 2020, and just put it all in there.
Okay.
Sometimes they may be resistant to delete something that they worked on.
Are we good?
I think we're good. No questions here.
All right. So submitting an assignment in Canvas. Now, first off, I want to remind you that your teachers are putting all the lesson materials in modules. So you are not to go straight to Canvas assignments. But there might be a time where like you run out of time or something and you didn't get done and you need to go back and just turn in an assignment real quick. So please note that you cannot skip the lesson for the day and go straight into completing the assignment. That's key. And I know some of you are doing that because I teach some children that do that. So when you're gonna do that, when you're on your teacher's Canvas page, there's a list of stuff on the left. This is like your menu. And assignments is one on the left side. Now your teacher might actually have this so that you can't see assignments. I will tell you that you can also find assignments in your Canvas calendar. You can click your calendar and you're looking for the specific name of an assignment to turn it in. When you're in your calendar, if you hit Control F, you can type in the name of that assignment and it'll show you where it is in the calendar. And then you know what date to go back and look at that module. But, I mean, I have my assignment so you can see it. So once you're in assignment, you're going to click on the assignment that you're going to want to turn in. Once you've opened that assignment, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a green button that says Submit Assignment. You will need to click that green button. And then, depending on how your teacher set this up, because your teachers can control this, how you turn stuff in, but typically it's going to be like a file upload. If it's like a PDF file or maybe a video file, that would go here. Text entry is when the text box pops open in Canvas. I will say though, if it's a longer assignment you're typing in Canvas and you have to come back to it, Canvas does not save work like Google Drive does. So if you're like writing an essay for language arts class, I highly recommend that you write that in your Google Docs, and then you can copy and paste it in the text entry. Again, you will lose stuff, and I've had some students very, very frustrated when that happened to them. You can also turn in the website URL. So if you're in your Google Drive and you have that assignment open that we were just talking about, at the very, very top is the web address for that assignment. You can highlight that, copy it, and paste it if you were to select that. I honestly have no idea what CK through 12 practice is. That just automatically shows up. So if anybody can figure that out, y'all can let me know. You can teach me something. But the whole point of setting up the Google Drive is that is also an option in Canvas. So if you did the assignment in Google Drive and you know it's in the folder for that class, when you select Google Drive, then your folders show up. And if it's your first time doing that, at the very, very bottom, you will have to click Allow for Canvas and Google to talk to each other. But once you click Allow that first time, it's not going to ask you again. But once you select Google Drive, all your folders are there, and you're able to click on the folder and click on the assignment. But you need to make sure that you click Submit Assignment that shows up at the bottom. When you are successful for that, there's going to be a green check mark in the right-hand corner, and there's actually a little thing that says Submission Details. You can click on Submission Details and make sure that you turned in the right thing if you were worried that you turned in the wrong thing. So you can go back and see what you turned in. So, questions about submitting assignments in Canvas?
Where do you find submission details?
Once they open the assignment, they click Submit Assignment, and then this shows up for them.
Well, because sometimes he misses, he said I submitted it, and so I want to be able to check that.
That's in the next slide.
Okay.
Because I got to it. Are the kids good?
I think we are good here.
All right.
I
So,
do want to add one more thing, and you've already said it, but I want to add it again. Even if you go into your Google Drive and you find the document that is your assignment to submit, it still needs to be shared with your teacher. And that goes back to what Mrs. Crosby was saying, the importance of having that folder, because anything you put in that folder will be automatically shared with your teacher. And
you don't have to think about
that
adding
extra
them
step.
to that each assignment every time. If you just move it to that folder, it does it automatically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so how do you go back and check? Did you turn it in? So, Canvas, if your teacher has it open, and hopefully they do, if not, I would say email your teacher and say, can they open this feature? On that menu on the left-hand side, there's something that says Grades. Grades is a great place to go to look at everything at a glance. And you could see from here, and this is my test student, so this is not an actual student. You can see several items are missing. Some things may be graded. And down here where it says 930, what is American Progress? You can see like there's not a dash, there's a link. That means that you turned in the assignment, but the teacher hasn't graded it yet because it's a total of 15 points. But if you see a grade, then on the left-hand side where it says score, your teacher has graded it. It's also important to note on the very, very far right, there's like a little icon that looks like a little comic book or comic strip talk bubble. That's your teacher's feedback in Canvas. So if you were to click on that, their comment opens beneath the assignment. So in the case of westward expansion, this student did not turn it in. So why did I get a 0? You didn't turn it in into Canvas. Remember, if it's in Google Drive, that's awesome, but you do have to turn it into Canvas. And so this is just a great, did you turn it in kind of thing. Canvas grade. As a parent, this is what I use. Did you do it?
I see a lot of that. I see the missing, but I appreciate the link. I understand that better now.
Yeah. That means they turned it, but the teacher hadn't graded it yet. Things like Canvas quizzes are graded automatically because we're able to set the key, but a lot of assignments, the teachers go and grade manually. Okay. All right, things you should know as a parent and as a student. The grades that you see in Canvas may not be the same grades in PowerSchool. Like for example, in social studies, when we give a pre-assessment, that's the beginning of a unit. We're looking to see what you already know or don't know. We're not going to grade you if you bomb that because we haven't taught you that material yet. So that's the grade that you would have in Canvas that wouldn't be. As a parent, please note that PowerSchool and Canvas, it's not going to be the same grade. Also, like language arts teachers, they use outside things, and math teachers too, like we have IXL. We have Common Lit,
Read 180.
Yep, it's UVLA. That isn't communicating with Canvas. So to actually see your grades, you need to go to PowerSchool. So you want to check assignments in Canvas to make sure that they're turned in, but you want to check PowerSchool for grades. And again, I want to remind you that you need to go to Canvas modules for the daily instructions, not just the assignment to get the work done. And you do have student email. You have a student Google account, Gmail. You should be checking that at least daily, although I encourage my students to do it at least twice a day. We usually start class with that. And about every block, we have some time for them to check their email. And also, I want to remind you all that parents and students can download the Canvas app on your cell phone. And then lastly, for the parents, it didn't do it.
Dr. Weicker, you want to speak a little to the details of that?
Sure. We created this resource specifically for parents to help you navigate conversations with your child, especially if they are participating in the remote learning at home, maybe with or without you. If you come home from work and you want to know what your child has done, I know when I ask my 11-year-old if he's done his work for the day, I get the answer, yeah. And that's it, with no details. So we created this document to help you, give you just some questions to actually provoke real dialogue with your child and maybe get some real information about what they've done throughout the day, about what they're struggling with, things that they might enjoy. We've organized it into 3 different categories: questions that'll monitor their actual academic progress, questions that'll help them think through whether they're understanding the technology pieces, the Canvas and the PowerSchool, and then just some general questions to, see how your kid's doing, see how they're feeling with remote learning, with their face-to-face interactions. So we just thought this might be helpful for parents.
And where is it?
This is it's linked in the PowerPoint, and I've shared that.
You'll get
Yeah.
access to it.
Yeah.
All right, so PowerSchool Parent Portal, going back to what Mrs. Crosley was saying, having access to your students' Canvas page as an observer is a great thing, but in order to understand how that translates to their actual grade and what you would see on a progress report or report card, it's important to have access to the parent portal through PowerSchool. Now, obviously, there are protections in place to ensure that the person that we're giving this information to actually has legal rights to your child's information. So the contact person that's on the screen here, Mrs. Darlene Furs, she's our data manager. And if anybody if any parent needs access to the parent portal, she would be the one to contact so that she can guide you through that process. Because again, we do make sure that your child's information is given to the person that it needs to go to. We don't just send those out without information about the person that's requesting it. Parent portal is the quickest, easiest way to quickly gauge where your child is, and also do want to put a plug in for attendance. I know that we're talking about virtual learning, but we've had many conversations with students and parents about attendance. One thing that I want to make sure I make clear is that in-person attendance is very important. And so you may have a child whose in-person day is Monday. They, for whatever reason, did not come into school on Monday, but they did work virtually and they were marked absent. That is not a problem. They will not be penalized in any way, but we do put a lot of emphasis on in-person attendance. You can imagine that in case of an emergency, our #1 concern is knowing who is in fact in our building that day. And so our teachers do put in-person attendance first, and it may take a few days for them to go back and change virtual attendance, but simply reaching out to your teacher counts as your student's attendance. Your child will not be penalized for a virtual absence, and we can change those up to 4 days in advance. So I do want to put a plug in there so people we don't want to add that stress to everything else that we're trying to navigate, okay? So we have many ways. Obviously, this is one of our efforts, and we'll continue to offer opportunities like this. We kind of collected some common questions and concerns and frustrations and put it into a PowerPoint to provide some details. We've got our Piedmont Mental Health Desk Hub, and the link is there. It's also in the quick links on our website. That's pretty much a one-stop shop for any question that you may have. We have several staff members involved in that, and the reason for it is to get quick response to parents. And it's organized by the need. We also have online tutorials that are available. We have these linked on our website as well under parent and student resources. Sometimes watching a quick video can help you understand navigating Canvas, which, if you haven't had a lot of experience with the learning management system, it can be difficult to navigate that. And then finally, anytime you can call the front office. Mrs. Conway's back here. We also have 2 other school counselors available, and they meet regularly with parents, even parents of Plan D students who don't come in for face-to-face days. We still bring those families in and sit down with them and help guide and support them through any specific questions they may have. So do not feel like you're alone in that. We are more than available to help support you. Those of you online, thank you so much for joining. Do you have any questions before we end this session online?
While you guys are typing your comments, this is Mrs. Gray. I'm the 7th grade assistant principal, and I just want to put my 2 cents in here, parents especially. We get phone calls, with parents being frustrated, and we understand that totally. We're frustrated a little bit too, but I understand that you would like to know what your child is doing, and that's what this was all about. I know that Dr. Ely, Ms. Crosley, and Dr. Weicker have already said some of these things, but I can't stress enough that the feedback that we've gotten with the live streaming, that parents are saying, if my child can't come to school, the live streaming has really been a lifesaver for us. So make sure that your child understands how to do that, understands how to join, even if they come 2 days a week. Those other 2 days are still important, and all of that is helpful. The on-demand videos that are already recorded, those are great. And we would need to watch those too. But sometimes a child needs that energy and that interaction, as you know. And that live streaming helps quite a bit. And we've had some really good feedback about that. The other kind of feedback that we've had that has been, seems like a game changer for some families is that schedule that children need to keep. You know, if they go ahead and attend each class, at least, you know, for 20 or 25 minutes, whatever the mini lesson might be, and then they can go off and do their independent work or whatever. But that schedule has been a game changer for some families as well. You know, getting kids in a routine, get up, brush your teeth, all those kinds of things. So, so make sure that you have access to those things. If you don't, even after today, spread it to your friends and family. Let them know that we're here to help you and that you can always call us and we'll walk you through it. So good luck, parents and students. We appreciate you being here.
Do you have any questions?
No
All
question.
right, bye guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Have a great morning. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome anytime.
Would you like for us to go back through the pieces or? you
Mine
wanna
are
just-
all specific questions.
All right, let's see what we can.
Okay, so Power School. So I understand, what's a T1 mean?
That's kind of one,
What's F1 mean?
final.
What's a T2? So we're in T2 now.
So there's six weeks. So you have T1, which is the first 6 weeks, and we're in T2, which is the second 6 weeks.
Okay. So, and that will be his final grades. You said something about we're supposed to pick up the grades today, or it's supposed to be mailed?
It starts next week. Yep, so